The Colonial Parkway, a 23-mile ribbon of road, weaving through Virginia's historic triangle of Jamestown, Williamsburg, and Yorktown, was more than just a scenic drive in the 1980s. It was a sanctuary for young couples, a place where the soft glow of moonlight and the rustle of leaves promised privacy and romance. Teenagers and young adults would park along its secluded pull-offs, sharing quiet moments in the shadow of America's colonial past. But in the late 1980s, this haven turned into a hunting ground. A predator, or perhaps predators, stalked the parkway, targeting young lovers with chilling precision. Between 1986 and 1989, 8 young people, 4 couples, were killed or vanished, their cases linked by location, victimology, and an eerie lack of evidence. The Colonial Parkway Murders became one of Virginia's most enduring mysteries, a series of crimes that shattered a community's sense of safety and left families grappling with grief and unanswered questions. The nightmare began on October 12, 1986, when a jogger stumbled upon a horrifying scene at the Cheatham Annex Overlook, just 7 miles east of Williamsburg. A white 1980 Honda Civic sat awkwardly off the road, pushed down an embankment as if to hide. Inside were the bodies of Kathleen and Kathy Thomas, a 27-year-old Naval Academy graduate and stockbroker, and Rebecca Becky Dowski, a 21-year-old senior at the College of William and Mary. The 2 women, a lesbian couple, had been seen leaving a computer lab together on October 9th, likely heading to the parkway for a private moment. What investigators found was a tableau of brutality. Kathy and Becky were bound with nylon rope, their throats slashed so deeply that decapitation was nearly complete. Diesel fuel had been poured over their bodies and the car, likely an attempt to erase evidence, but it failed to ignite. Their purses, wallets, and valuables were untouched, ruling out robbery. There was no evidence of sexual assault, adding to the mystery of the killer's motive. The precision of the attack, binding the victims, using a knife with surgical accuracy, suggested a killer who was methodical, perhaps experienced. The community reeled. Williamsburg, a quaint college town steeped in history, was unaccustomed to such violence. Parents began warning their children to avoid the parkway after dark, and couples who once sought its solitude and now saw it as a place of danger. The Virginia State Police, along with local law enforcement, launched an investigation, but the absence of fingerprints, DNA, or witnesses left them with little to go on. Rumors spread of a serial killer, someone who could blend into the night, leaving only fear in their wake. The Thomas Dowski murders marked the beginning of a terrifying saga, one that would grow darker with each passing year. Less than a year later, on September 23, 1987, the horror deepened, spreading fear like wildfire. David Knobling, a 20-year-old from Hampton, and Robin Edwards, a 14-year-old high school freshman, were found dead on the shoreline of the Ragged Island Wildlife Management Area, near the James River, in Isle of White County. They had been missing since September 19th, last seen after Robin went on a date with David's younger cousin. David's black Ford Ranger pickup truck was found abandoned at the refuge, its driver's window partially rolled down, the keys still in the ignition, and the radio playing softly. Search parties scoured the area for 3 days before discovering the bodies. Both had been shot in the head, and Robin had been sexually assaulted, a deviation from the Thomas Dowski case that raised new questions. The similarities, though, were undeniable. A young couple, a secluded area, a staged vehicle suggesting compliance. Investigators noted that the killer likely approached the victims under a pretense of authority, perhaps posing as a police officer or park ranger, forcing them out of the vehicle before executing them. The brutality and control pointed to a predator who thrived on power. The community's fear intensified, with residents locking their doors and avoiding isolated areas. The Virginia State Police called in the FBI Behavioral Science Unit to develop a profile of the killer, describing a white male, possibly in his 20s or 30s, with above-average intelligence and a possible connection to law enforcement or military training. Public forums were held, with residents demanding answers, but the lack of forensic evidence, only a few fibers and no fingerprints, stymied. The Knobling Edwards murders confirmed what many feared. A serial killer was targeting couples along the Colonial Parkway, and no one knew when or where they would strike next. Law enforcement resources were stretched thin, with small-town sheriff's departments unaccustomed to handling such complex cases. The media amplified the panic, with headlines screaming about a Lover's Lane killer, and the once romantic Parkway became a place to avoid at all costs. The terror continued on April 10, 1988, when Richard Akethi Call, a 20-year-old computer science student at Christopher Newport University, and Cassandra Haley, a 19-year-old freshman at the same school, vanished without a trace. The two had attended a college party in Newport News the night before, their first official date after meeting through mutual friends. Keith's red 1982 Toyota Celica was found abandoned on the Colonial Parkway, near the York River overlook, just a mile from where Kathy Thomas and Becky Dowski were killed. The car's keys were in the ignition, Keith's watch and glasses were on the seat, and Cassandra's shoes were inside, suggesting they left the vehicle in a hurry. No blood, no signs of a struggle, just an eerie emptiness. Despite extensive searches of the surrounding woods and waterways, their bodies were never found. The similarities to the earlier cases were striking. A young couple, a parked car on the parkway, and no clear evidence of what happened. Investigators speculated that Keith and Cassandra were abducted, possibly at gunpoint, and taken to a secondary location. The absence of remains left open the possibility of an accident. Perhaps they went skinny dipping in the York River and drowned, but their families dismissed this. Keith was cautious. Cassandra was wary of the Parkway's growing reputation. The case introduced a new wrinkle. Unlike the previous murders, where bodies were left behind, Keith and Cassandra seemed to have been erased entirely. This shift suggested either an evolution in the killer's methods or a different perpetrator altogether. The community's anxiety reached a fever pitch, with parents forbidding their children from going near the parkway. The FBI and Virginia State Police intensified their efforts, setting up task forces and canvassing for witnesses. But the lack of physical evidence was maddening. Theories multiplied. Was the killer targeting couples for personal reasons? Or was this a hate crime? The Call Haley disappearance deepened the mystery, leaving families in a limbo of hope and despair, wondering if their loved ones might still be alive, or if they too had met a violent end. The final case linked to the Colonial Parkway murders came on September 5, 1989, when Anna Maria Phelps, an 18-year-old from Virginia Beach, and Daniel Lauer, a 21-year-old from Amelia County, disappeared while traveling to the beach. Anna Maria was dating Daniel's younger brother, but the two were together that night, possibly carpooling or spending time together platonically. Daniel's gold 1972 Chevrolet Nova was found abandoned at an Interstate 64 rest stop in New Kent County, about 30 miles from the parkway, with the keys in the ignition and Anna Maria's purse inside. 6 weeks later, on October 19th, hunters discovered their skeletal remains in a wooded area less than a mile away, covered with an electric blanket from Daniel's car. Anna Maria had been stabbed multiple times, but decomposition made it impossible to determine Daniel's cause of death. The use of a blanket to conceal the bodies was a new tactic, suggesting either a change in the killer's behavior or a different hand at work. The proximity to the parkway and the familiar pattern, young couple, abandoned vehicle, convinced investigators to link this case to the others. Yet the variation in methods, strangulation, shooting, now stabbing, complicated the narrative. Was this the work of one killer adapting their approach, or multiple perpetrators exploiting the parkway's seclusion? The lack of forensic evidence remained a constant hurdle. No fingerprints, no DNA matches at the time, and no witnesses to the abduction. Families were left devastated, their lives upended by loss and the absence of closure. The Phelps-Lauer case sparked new theories. A serial killer with a vendetta against couples, a rogue law enforcement officer using their authority to lure victims, or even a hate-driven motive targeting specific groups, as some speculated about the Thomas Dowski case, due to their sexual orientation. Community trust eroded further, with residents questioning whether the police were equipped to catch such an elusive predator. The Colonial Parkway murders became a grim legend, a cautionary tale whispered to new generations, as investigators chased shadows and families held unto fading hope. For decades, the Colonial Parkway murders remained a frustrating enigma. But recent advancements have breathed new life into the investigation. In January 2023, a stunning breakthrough came when DNA evidence linked Alan Wade Wilmer Sr., a deceased fisherman from Lancaster County, to the 1987 murders of David Nobling and Robin Edwards, as well as the 1989 murder of Teresa Lynn Spallhowell in Hampton, a case not previously tied to the Parkway killings. Wilmer, who died in 2017 at age 63, was identified through genetic material obtained posthumously. A small-time criminal with no felony record, he had never been in the Cody's database, making his identification. Wilmer owned a blue 1966 Dodge Fargo pickup truck with the license plate M. Raw and operated a fishing boat called the Denny Wade. Details now critical to investigators seeking witnesses who knew him. The Virginia Department of Forensic Science confirmed the match, and authorities stated that Wilmer would have been charged if alive. However, no forensic or physical evidence currently links him to the Thomas Dowski, Call Haley, or Phelps Lauer cases, leaving those investigations open. The Sexual Assault Kit Initiative, SAKI, has been instrumental, funding analysts who connected Wilmer to the crime. Advanced DNA testing, including platforms like GEDmatch, has revolutionized cold casework, allowing investigators to re-examine evidence like hair found in Kathy Thomas's hand and a biological sample from Robin Edwards. In 2018, families revealed that DNA from 3 of the 4 crime scenes remained untested due to limited resources, but new funding and technology are changing that. Cold case detectives, alongside victim advocacy groups like the Colonial Parkway Murders family group, led by Bill Thomas, Kathy's brother, are pushing for answers. The FBI has renewed its call for tips, urging anyone who knew Wilmer, whether through fishing, hunting, or his tree service business, to contact 1-800-CALL FBI or tips.fbi. Public interest has surged, fueled by documentaries like the Oxygen Network's A Lover's Lane Murders and podcasts that keep the cases in the spotlight. The hope is that new witnesses, perhaps former associates of Wilmer, or others with knowledge of the 1980s Parkway scene, will come forward. The families, supported by a dedicated network of advocates, refuse to let these cases fade, holding vigils and pressing for every piece of evidence to be retested with cutting-edge tools. The Colonial Parkway murders have left a lasting scar on southeastern Virginia, transforming the way people view lovers' lanes and secluded spaces. The Parkway, once a symbol of freedom and romance, now carries a somber weight, a reminder that even the most beautiful places can harbor danger. For the families of Kathy Thomas, Becky Dowski, David Nobling, Robin Edwards, Keith Call, Cassandra Haley, Anna Maria Phelps, and Daniel Lauer, the pain is unrelenting. Each birthday, holiday, or anniversary is a stark reminder of their loss, compounded by the mystery of who committed these crimes and why. The cases have inspired countless theories. A single serial killer with a hatred for couples, a corrupt authority figure exploiting trust, or even a group of perpetrators working together. The identification of Alan Wilmer Sr. in 3 homicides has answered some questions but raised others, leaving the remaining cases in limbo. The community has changed too. Parents are more cautious, and the Parkway is no longer a late-night destination for young couples. The murders have become a cultural touchstone, explored in books, TV series, and online forums where amateur sleuths debate clues and suspects. At the heart of the story remains the victims and their families, who deserve justice. The FBI tip line, 1-800-CALL-FBI, and the website tips.fbi.gov are lifelines for new information. As relationships and memories shift over time, someone, somewhere may hold a critical detail. And perhaps a memory of Wilmer's blue pickup truck, his fishing boat, or a strange encounter on the Parkway in the 1980s. The call to action is clear. Share what you know, no matter how small it seems. As forensic science advances, with tools like DNA phenotyping and familial matching, the possibility of solving these cases grows stronger. The question lingers, heavy and unresolved. Will a breakthrough in technology, a forgotten witness, or a single overlooked clue finally unmask the Colonial Parkway killer? For 8 young lives cut short, and for the families who carry their memory, the search for truth continues. a testament to resilience, hope, and the enduring fight for justice. This expanded script dives deeper into each topic, painting a vivid picture of the Colonial Parkway Murders' impact on victims, families, and the community. It incorporates the latest developments, such as the DNA link to Alan Wilmer Sr., while emphasizing the ongoing investigation and the public's role in seeking justice. The narrative remains engaging and detailed, avoiding headings and brackets as requested, and maintains a documentary-style flow that balances facts with emotional resonance.